The transfer window is over, and deadline day saw Arsenal sign 31-year-old Italian international Jorginho from Chelsea. After a very public pursuit of Mykhailo Mudryk ended in the signing of Leandro Trossard, and the reported bids for Moises Caicedo went nowhere, Arsenal have seemingly had to settle for second best this winter. Whichever way you spin it, from a wider perspective, it's never a good look to be missing out on players that you clearly want. And that's probably why Arteta is so keen to do business behind closed doors. He's not a shiny new toy, so he's going to take some getting used to. No one, unless you're a contrarian hipster, saw Jorginho's name and went, "Oh, great!" And getting this, when all window we were dangled carrots, real carrots from reliable carrot sellers. Look, forget the metaphor. The point is, he's not the dream signing. And I understand that, because I understand all of the concerns on Jorginho. I really do. After all, our track record of signing Chelsea's over 30s hasn't been particularly good. But when you start to zoom in a bit closer, I think you begin to understand the mechanics of this deal, and why it might have been the right thing to do in the given circumstances. If you want to hear my thoughts on the window as a whole, as well as getting loads of other bonus content, please check out the bonus content for this video on Patreon from the link in the description. Firstly, we had to do something for the 6 role. Sambi clearly isn't deemed suitable, at least for now, and El Neni was out. Kaya Kanak, sorry if I butchered your name, tweeted quotes from Arteta on the 25th of January that seemed inconclusive about the prognosis. Arteta might have been bluffing so as not to lose negotiating power, but regardless, this clearly wasn't planned, so we had to act in a short space of time. Though I'm not sure whether Jorginho and Caicedo were an either or, we apparently pushed hard for Caicedo, and if it came down to a case of an extra 5 million, we should have done it. If it was the case that Brighton were refusing to sell, then I'm glad we had this in our back pocket. We literally can't know, so let's not worry about that. But also, we can't just sign anyone, and we haven't. We've signed a very, very good footballer, and someone Mikel has clearly admired for a very long time. In fact, Jorginho's admitted to nearly signing for Arsenal before. In an exclusive interview with Marca in June of 2019, Arteta outlined what he sees as the ideal qualities of a number 6 and name-checked Jorginho as someone he loves. The idea we were scrabbling around for just anybody to come in having missed out on Caicedo, to me just doesn't wash. Proper recruitment teams are prepared for all scenarios, and Jorginho fits a lot of what we need, even if Caicedo could have covered 2 roles at 6 and 8 and been a bit more long-term. So, what is Jorginho's role? Well, Thomas Partey's role as 6 is essentially to dominate our first phase, progress us up the pitch, and win the ball back. For a more in-depth look at Thomas Partey's role in this Arsenal team, check out my previous video, but we're evidently looking for someone who can provide Partey with some competition and ensure our drop-off isn't as stark when he isn't playing as it is now. And when you put their radars side by side, you can see a lot of healthy similarities between Jorginho and Partey. There's none of the usual will this translate stuff, they're doing it in the same league. Relatively similar XG build-up, ball recovery, tackle and passes into the final third numbers, all key components of the number 6 at Arsenal's job. Partey progresses more, Jorginho blocks more, but all comparable. Jorginho's ability to break up play is really very, very good, and was one of my big reservations going into this video. He can definitely defend, and defend space, and defend it very well. That's put even more starkly in this graph, where it looks like Jorginho is outperforming Partey defensively, but I'd exercise caution on that, as Chelsea play far more on the transition than we do. The flip side of that is there are stats and compilations going around detailing how much he's dribbled past. That can be skewed because there's so many more times that could happen in a Chelsea game, but it is a concern. His robustness in the challenge is also one of my concerns. He does seem to be bullied off it an awful lot if he doesn't have control of the ball, so he is a potential weakness for a high press. But if he can get his little hunch going, his close control means he's very hard to get it off. He has that Paddy Vieira ability to knock the ball over your head, and his turning circle makes him extremely press resistant. He also has that lovely drop of the shoulder, turn and go in his locker. You all know how good he is as a passer, and how reliable he is. I don't need to point that out. But what I would like to point out is how intelligent he is on and off the ball. He has a trademark lifted ball, first time over the top, which I love and can see being used time and time again to unlock deep blocks, and his ability to break up the game, then break lines, comes from his excellent reading of the game, scanning constantly and spotting opportunities that fraction sooner than others. His line breakers can be lethal. He's all about short passes, keeps it simple, keeps it ticking. For the suffocation by 1,000 passes thing, he is perfect. Something Arteta will love is his body position before he receives the ball. It's something he's been working on with Ødegaard, and you can see it with Jorginho. When Mari left, he said it was one of the biggest things that Arteta taught him. Before he receives it, he often scans, then adjusts just as the ball hits his foot to make the next movement swifter. Top player. But Jorginho is really, really not a goal threat. He has 2 non-penalty goals in 143 Premier League appearances. But that's just not who he is and not what we expect him to be. He's a dictator, someone who does his best work behind the ball. His long passing isn't the best, but that's again not necessarily what we need him for. I'm really excited to see him in an Arsenal shirt, and I think he can also be a great alternative to Partey. So let's address the big concern. He's 31. Yes, he is. But this team isn't exactly crying out for youthful exuberance. If we do it, we would be the youngest team on average to win the Premier League ever. It's crying out for experience, and Arteta, Jorginho and Edu have all spoken about that. While I will always pick ability over experience, for a team facing a title race against the winners of 4 of the last 5 of them, I don't mind another calm head in the dressing room. And calm is a word that seems to follow Jorginho around. From his penalty run-up to his performance style, he exudes a relaxed, continental attitude. Perhaps having grown up idolising the likes of Ronaldinho and Kaká, we should expect that. Had we given him a 4.5-year deal, sure, that's stupid for a player at his stage. But 1.5 years, for someone in his position on the pitch especially, is a really good bit of negotiation. I bet he wanted more. Capology says he was on £110,000 a week at Chelsea. If we even went to £150,000 a week, that's £11.7 million to see out his deal on wages, and reportedly £10 million plus £2 million in add-ons, making the overall package doable at about £22 to £24 million. And you can't get Enzo Fernandez's right leg for that. Here's an incredible stat. Jorginho has picked up just 1 injury since the 2015-16 season, which saw him miss only 7 days of action. In his 13-year career, Jorginho has only been unavailable for 5 matches. Imagine if we'd had him in the run-in last year. Having grown up in Brazil, he spent his adult life in Europe, and he should have no problem adapting to the dressing room with a number of Portuguese speakers. He speaks great English and comes across very well in his first interview. In a frankly hilarious clip that came out on deadline day, Marc Cucurella calls him the most intelligent player in Chelsea's squad before finding out he's leaving. Proof, if you ever needed it, that players often find out at the same time that we do. A few more things. We can't, on the one hand, praise the club for pulling out of deals when the valuation goes over the top, then on the other hand, chastise them for not going over their valuation for another player. They're the ones supposed to show cool heads, calculated reasoning and risk-taking. It's not to say they won't make mistakes. This could very well be a mistake, like another 30-plus signing from Chelsea that I won't mention. But I somehow don't think so. I know I'll be accused of rationalising all this, and maybe I am. And to be clear, I am disappointed. I'd have loved Caicedo or Rice. But consider this. If we'd been chasing Jorginho all window and finally got it over the line on deadline day, would we not be jubilant, thinking that this must clearly be the guy that Arteta thinks is perfect for us? No one's deluded in thinking that Jorginho is going to be here for 15 years. He won't. But do we need to sign the future of the position every window, especially in the middle of a title race? We're top of the league, 5 points clear, and a game in hand for a reason. So, let's trust the club. Is Jorginho the long-term solution for our midfield? No. Is Jorginho the perfect player? No. Is it the perfect deal? No. Am I going to ask myself another question to answer myself again? Yes, I am. But this is a sensible, pragmatic solution. It's a deal that sees us sign a Champions League, Europa League and European Championship winner. A deal where we sign UEFA's best men's player from only 2 seasons ago, 3rd in the Ballon d'Or in 2021, which weirdly doesn't seem to be being mentioned at all. Jorginho isn't some Chelsea outcast, by the way. He started almost every game for them this season, often as their captain. He's Premier League ready, and for me, it makes a great deal of sense. Arteta was right to sign him, and when you take a look at our bench now, it's looking really, really good. That may make all the difference in our title run-in. Thank you so much for watching The Different Knock. If you like this video, please hit like and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Please consider supporting us on Patreon monthly or head to buymeacoffee.com for one-time support. You can find me at AMOnFootball on Twitter, and we're at DiffKnock on all social media. Also, check out our podcast. All the links are in the video description. Thanks.